Now, a story written approximately 1,000 years before Genesis, talking about the city of Uruk, the great flood, the ark, the builder of the ark, a serpent stealing a plant that would provide immortality, and the gods in plural, which is no different from the oldest texts of the Old Testament, where the Elohim were a group of beings and they would assemble together, as some texts say. In the 19th century, clay tablets written in cuneiform were discovered and later translated. These texts were composed before the book of Genesis and originate from a civilization that inhabited Mesopotamia long before the Israelites appear in biblical tradition, the Sumerians. Among these texts are stories that show strong similarities to biblical narratives. King Gilgamesh, described as 2/3 divine and 1/3 human, meets Utnapishtim, the man who survived the flood by building an ark. On a general level, these similarities may appear to support the biblical account. However, when examined in detail, significant differences emerge. In the Sumerian version, the God who sends the flood is not the same God who warns the ark builder. These gods are brothers. One intends to destroy humanity, while the other wants humanity to survive. This text focuses on one Sumerian work in particular, considered the oldest known literary narrative, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is the king of Uruk, known for his exceptional strength and beauty. He rules with both wisdom and tyranny, oppressing the people of the city. In response, the gods create Enkidu, a wild man raised among animals, intended to counterbalance Gilgamesh. After being warned through dreams interpreted by his mother, the goddess Remat Ninsum, Gilgamesh meets Enkidu. They fight, and Gilgamesh prevails. Enkidu acknowledges Gilgamesh's superiority, and the two become close companions. Gilgamesh convinces Enkidu to travel to the cedar forest, modern-day Lebanon, to defeat Humbaba, the guardian of the forest, and cut down the sacred cedars to gain fame. Despite opposition from advisors and Enkidu's later doubts, they proceed with the support of the sun god Shamash. They defeat Humbaba, and Enkidu insists on killing him, which results in Humbaba cursing Enkidu with a short life and provoking the anger of the god Enlil. To appease Enlil, Enkidu uses cedar wood to build a large temple gate. The two then return to Uruk. The goddess Ishtar proposes marriage to Gilgamesh, but he refuses, citing the fate of her previous lovers. In response, Ishtar demands punishment and sends the bull of heaven to destroy Uruk. Gilgamesh and Enkidu kill the bull. Because of the deaths of Humbaba and the bull of heaven, the gods decide that one of the two heroes must die. Enkidu is chosen. He learns of his fate through a dream, becomes ill, and dies after 12 days, despite Gilgamesh's care. Gilgamesh decides to seek eternal life and sets out to find Utnapishtim, the only human granted immortality after surviving the flood. During his journey, he encounters various obstacles and supernatural beings and eventually crosses the waters of death with the help of a ferryman. When Gilgamesh meets Utnapishtim, he is surprised to find that he appears ordinary. Utnapishtim explains how he survived the flood through obedience to the god Ea, also known as Enki, who warned him to build an ark. After the flood, Ea defended Utnapishtim before Enlil, who ultimately granted Utnapishtim and his wife immortality. Utnapishtim challenges Gilgamesh to remain awake for 6 days and 7 nights. Gilgamesh immediately falls asleep and fails the test. Before Gilgamesh leaves, Utnapishtim reveals the existence of a plant at the bottom of the sea that restores youth. Gilgamesh retrieves it but decides to test it on the elders of Uruk before using it himself. While resting near a freshwater spring, a serpent steals the plant and sheds its skin, symbolizing renewal. Gilgamesh loses the opportunity to benefit from it. He returns to Uruk without immortality and accepts that eternal life is not attainable for humans. Later tablets describe Enkidu's descent into the underworld and Gilgamesh's inability to retrieve him permanently. These passages describe the condition of the dead and reinforce the permanence of death. In the final section, Gilgamesh's death is described as decreed by the god Enlil. The city mourns him, and offerings are made to the gods of the underworld. The epic concludes by affirming that Gilgamesh was destined for kingship, not eternal life. The story ends with the assertion that when the gods created humanity, they assigned death to humans and reserved eternal life for themselves.